This is Fool's Puzzle. It's 12-inch finished. Here is a diagram, and there are 3 units in here. I'll show you those. Here are 4 blocks set block to block, and these I alternated. You see the little chevrons are going across, and here they're going down. You just alternate the rotation of these. This is a 4x4 grid, and it's a 12-inch block. That means that each of these units in the grid are finished at 3 inches. Let's look at the patches. There are 2 different patches. 3-inch finished half square triangle. We're going to cut the squares at 3 7/8 inches. Cut them in half once on the diagonal for 2 patches. We need 8 patches of the light and 8 of the dark. That means we need to cut 4 squares and cut each square in half. Here are the AccuQuilt dies you can use. Here is patch B. It's a 6-inch finished quarter square triangle. You cut 7 1/4 inch squares and cut each square in half diagonally twice, and we get 4 patches. For the dark and the light, we need 4 patches of each. So we'll just cut 1 square. And here are the AccuQuilt dies you can use. The units in this block, there are 3 different units. The half square triangle, they fill up 4 grid spaces. The quarter square triangle also fills up 4 grid spaces. The half square triangles are in the corners, the 4 corners, and the quarter square triangle is right here in the center. And finally, the flying geese take up 8 grid spaces. The flying geese are here on the sides, the outer sides. Here is a sample quilt. This one finishes 60 by 84. It has 35 blocks, 5 across and 7 down. We're going to talk about the flying geese 4 at a time method, and here are the sizes of the squares you cut. I'm going to actually have a demo from another video I made showing how to do this method. You cut the small squares at 3 7/8 and cut the large square at 7 1/4 inches. For this method, it makes 4 at a time. I want to show you the method, but we only need 2 because we have 2 different ones. The geese are light here on the top and bottom, and the geese are dark here on the side. Doing 4 at a time flying geese, I would only do that if you were making multiple blocks. Something to notice here, the sizes you cut for the 4 flying geese are exactly the same sizes you cut up here. For the small flying geese, you'll cut 4 at 3 7/8. You don't cut them in half. You cut 4 squares at 3 7/8. And for the large square, you cut 1 at 7 1/4 inches, and you don't cut them into 4 pieces. Here are the fabrics I've chosen. Here is the light fabric and the dark fabric. I've cut a few of these and because I wanted to show you something. One of my wonderful viewers suggested to me or told me that she uses this deluxe corner trimmer from Marty Michelle to trim her points when she has rotary cut them. And this is a fantastic idea. I have had this template for I don't know how many years. I use it every now and then, but this is a good way to use this ruler. Here are the patches we cut. This is the A patch, and I cut squares and cut them in half once diagonally. And here are the dark ones that I haven't cut diagonally yet. I want to show you how to use this tool. These corners, or these points, have been cut off. And we've done that with this Marty Michelle's Deluxe Corner Trimmer. I'm going to show you how to do that with these pieces. I have cut these now. They're into triangles. And we want to stack these as close as we can to each other. Because I've got 4 here, I'm going to cut 4 at a time. You look for the angle that you have for whatever you're going to cut. And there's little pictures here, so you see this is the half square triangle. And it's a 45-degree angle. We're going to take the sides here and lay them along the sides of this triangle, and we push it, we move it around until the edges of the triangle and the fabric line up both places here, here and here. Then we take our rotary cutter and we cut off this piece first, and then we cut off this little piece here. And you might think that's insignificant, but just wait till we try to sew the pieces together and you'll see how nice it is. And I'm going to turn the piece around and do this other side too. And here are the points we have trimmed for the half square triangles. I have finished trimming the corners or the points of the half square triangles and the quarter square triangles. For the quarter square triangles, it is also a 45-degree angle, and that's the angle you use for the quarter square triangles as well. And you know it's a 45-degree angle because you cut it across the diagonal. Okay, so now what we're going to do first, we're going to take 2 of each color and make the quarter square triangle. So they go like this. And you'll remember that quarter square triangles have the long side of the triangle is the outside of the block, because this is the lengthwise or crosswise grain. It doesn't stretch as much, and your bias grain is here along these diagonals. To piece these, you simply put one on top of the other, put the dark and the light together, and I like to start by matching this 90-degree angle here. So I match those, the point, and then start matching the sides, and then come out here to the tips and match all the tips. Then we're going to stitch 1/4 inch down this side and do the same thing over here. Flip this over, line it all up, and stitch 1/4 inch down this side. These have been pieced and pressed. Now we're just going to sew the two together along the long side. Again, you'll match your seam here and then match your points on the end. And here is our quarter square triangle. Another benefit of this deluxe corner trimmer is there are no nubs to cut off. So virtually you're stitching for, if it's rotary cut with the edges trimmed, and the AccuQuilt method, they're both the same. You piece all of these just the same. Now let's go on to our flying geese. We have 2 of the dark geese and 2 of the light geese. For both of them, we're going to put them together like this. I always start with one side, and we're going to flip this over and match the edges that we trimmed here. So you'll match here, this side, the bottom, and the side of the triangle. And you'll see where you trimmed, this little piece you trimmed off here goes right along this edge. So it really helps you with your placement. And then just make sure everything is placed well. And we're going to stitch 1/4 inch down here. I would take all 4 of my flying geese patches here, and then the corresponding sky pieces, and chain piece the 4. Press them all, and then come back and do the next side. Now we've pieced our 4 flying geese on one side of the sky, so we're going to do the other side of the sky. We will do it the same way. Just flip it over, match all of your sides, top, side here, and all of the points. And then your little straight piece you cut off here should line up with this top edge. Now you can go ahead and chain piece the rest of these and then press them open. As you're doing that, the patches you have left are 4 half square triangles. So we can go ahead and piece those too. And you just piece them the same way. They should all be trimmed. Flip them over and just line up everything. All the edges should line up exactly because they're the same. Then stitch your 1/4 inch and press your seam open. Now we have all of our units pieced. Here is the quarter square triangle unit, the half square triangle units that go in the corners, and the 2 sets of flying geese units that go along the sides. If you are rotary cutting your pieces and having trouble aligning them and getting accurate results, you might look into getting you one of these deluxe corner trimmers from Marty Michelle. There's going to be a link in the description below the video. I think if you're having problems and then you try this, it could be a game changer for you. And so thank you, BJ, for telling me about this, or reminding me about it, and I had to go dig it out of my drawers and use it again. So I'll be using it more often now. Now let's look at the method of flying geese 4 at a time. And you will have 4 identical flying geese. You won't have 4 like this. But if you are making multiple blocks, it's probably a good thing to make the flying geese 4 at a time. Or you can just chain piece, just like we did. And then once we're done with that demo, we'll come back and look at the block. Now for the flying geese 4 at a time, you're going to cut 1 large square, and this will be the geese. That's the triangle in the center. And you'll cut 4 small squares, and this is the sky. It's the 2 triangles on the outside of the flying geese unit. You'll take the small squares, the sky, and mark 1 diagonal line on each one. You take 2 squares and line up the corner of the large square and then the opposite corner of the large square. So you make sure that the edges are even and this diagonal line lines up. Stitch 1/4 inch on either side of the diagonal line. Cut on the diagonal line. Press these toward the dark side, the darker fabric, which in this case is this direction, and then cut off the nubs. Now here we have the 2 pieces. They're pressed to the dark side and the nubs have been taken off. Take your remaining triangles, line up this edge like this, and line up the same thing over here. And you're going to stitch, you know the drill, 1/4 inch on each side of the diagonal line on each one. Now once you've stitched, cut it in half on the diagonal line that you drew. If you can see where this line of stitching meets the edge, this little intersection here of the top fabric and the bottom fabric, your stitching should be right at that point on both sides. Now let's put our block together. We have all of our units done. This is the 1/4 square triangle. It goes in the center. And we're going to take the 1/2 square triangles and put those in the corner. Be careful how you place it. Just check your placement as you put everything down. Now we'll do our flying geese units. It's the sides. And then the top and bottom. And that's not right. Okay, these go like this. I kept changing those. Okay, so that's better. This makes a little chevron, or it looks like wings, these here up and down. And you can place one this way, and the one next to it, you place this way. Or you can do them all the same, however you like. Now I'm going to stitch the rows together, then I'll stitch the rows to each other. Now here's the block. One question I get a lot of is, do I starch? And yes, I starch. I starch before I cut, and sometimes as I'm piecing, I'll starch. I didn't on here, but some pieces need it. And then after I finish the block, I starch it. So this is all nice and starched, and as all the blocks are when I finish them. So here's the front, and remember you can also place it this way in your quilt, or maybe even diagonal. That might look interesting. So here's the back, and then the front again. Thank you for watching.